Good morning, everyone. I'm Brad Woodard.
I'm Rhonda Kinchlow. Pat and Roxanne have the day off, but we have a great show for you today.
Absolutely. Dog trainer Catherine Newman is here, and she'll talk about how to deal with your dogs when you have holiday guests over to your house.
And 'tis the season for new movies. Jeff Strickler is here to tell us which ones are worth your time and money.
And speaking of movies, Irish actor Brendan Gleeson stopped by recently to give us a preview of the movie everyone is talking about, Cold Mountain.
And we're baking up sweet treats from a new cookbook filled with recipes from around the world.
Looks good. All that and so much more on Kare 11 Today, which starts right now.
This is Kare 11 Today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Brad Woodard in for Pat Evans on what is a beautiful Monday morning.
It's the second nice day, isn't it?
Yes.
Gosh, yesterday was very nice. It was like almost balmy.
Doesn't
Not
feel like
quite.
December.
No, not at all, but we'll take it.
Rhonda Kinchlow, obviously, filling in for Roxanne Battle.
Good to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. I always like working with you. You're a lot of fun.
Well, thank you.
Did you have a nice weekend?
I had a great weekend, and you know what? For the first time in a long time, I actually took advantage of being off and going out and doing things. I went to a concert last night, a church
Really?
concert. The Excelsior Choir
Oh, they're great.
performed. Oh, and where did I go Saturday night? Sounds of Blackness had the Christmas Fantasy over at the Fitzgerald Theater.
And of course, we had the big Kare 11 holiday party on Friday.
On
I'm
Friday
still,
night.
Still recovering from that.
Hey, you know what? That tribute that you did to Paul,
Oh, yeah.
over the top, over the top.
Oh, how do you do justice to that guy? You know,
Never
a
seems like it's
20-year
enough,
career
but you did a
here.
very nice job.
And he's in LA now, actually. He left Saturday.
Wonder what the temperature is. You have to ask Jonathan what the temperature is in LA today.
Oh, I think Jonathan is standing by in the backyard. Jonathan?
Think so?
Maybe not.
Maybe he's not there yet.
Are you going to do weather this morning?
I am in the backyard.
Oh, you are?
And-
Okay, good morning.
And I do know that temperature in Los Angeles. Usually I don't know that because that's kind of far away, obviously. But, but I did happen to look it up today. 75 this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
That's above average. Typically they're about 68, 67 this time of the year.
Okay.
That's
Well, how
pretty
about us? You know, we're doing pretty well.
You know what? This kind of winter day, this is what it's all about. You got the snow, you got comfortable temperatures, you don't get beat up by the wind chill. It is going to get a little colder tomorrow, but then by the end of the week, we're going to see temperatures again getting close to 40. I'll get to that in a moment. Let's take a look at a sky camera this morning. Bright sunshine out across the Twin Cities right now, but you might notice off to the west, the clouds are getting a little thicker, and those are gradually heading this way. But we'll have a fair amount of sunshine all day long. Taking a quick look at temperatures across the state this morning. It's mainly in the upper 20s to mid 30s in all locations, and we don't expect any significant weather problems anywhere across Minnesota. There will be some light snow developing later on this afternoon in northern Minnesota, and we could even see some flurries here in the Twin Cities as we get out toward about 5 or 6 o'clock this evening, but it does not look like anything that is going to cause any major problems. If you're doing some flying today or you have some relatives and friends coming in, here's what it looks like as far as flight delays due to weather across the country. The most significant delays may occur a little later on today at Houston and New Orleans because of some isolated strong thunderstorms, and then just some rain from Tulsa up through St. Louis, Chicago, Indianapolis, and Cleveland may cause some delays. Foggy delays right now out at San Francisco and Sacramento, and rain at Seattle. Here's our Twin Cities forecast today. Sunshine for the next couple of hours, then slowly increasing clouds with a chance for some flurries late this afternoon, a high at 36. Now tomorrow, look at that, not as warm, high at 26 with a few flurries possible in the morning. Otherwise, as we get out to Christmas Eve day, 28, then 33 on Christmas Day Thursday, and then as we get up to Friday, we're getting close again to 40 degrees. So we're looking pretty good. No big storms expected the next 5 days. Weather fairly quiet here in Minnesota. So Brad, this will be an easy travel week for people if you're driving somewhere, shouldn't have any problems.
We can live with that. Thanks a lot, Jonathan.
All
We
right.
appreciate it. Well, the holiday movie season opened with a bang over the weekend, but it's not over yet. There are more potential blockbusters to come. It's one of the most talked about movies of the holiday season, and with the likes of Nicole Kidman, Jude Law, and Renee Zellweger, Cold Mountain has plenty of star power. But is it a good movie? Jeff Strickler is here with his review. Ordinarily, you're here on Fridays, but there's so many movies coming out this week.
There's more than we can handle. In fact, there's like 8 movies opening on Christmas Day, and of course we won't be here on Christmas Day, so we thought we'd do something different, Brad. We'll do some movies today, all adult movies. All the grown-up movies are going to be today, and then tomorrow we'll come back and talk about all the kid movies that are going to open up. So none of these movies we're talking about today, they're not open yet, but they're coming very, very soon.
Well, let's start with Cold Mountain. This is one of the most highly anticipated films. I was a big fan of the book. I got to actually sit in on a screening, and I don't know, what did you think?
It's directed by Anthony Minghella, who did The English Patient, and he is legendary for taking novels and being very, very reverent in his adaptations. Let's take a look.
Whoa! He'll be back in a month! Kiss her for me! Come on, let's go!
I'll be waiting for you.
Now, Anthony Minghella's movies are exquisitely crafted, and this certainly is no different. If you saw The English Patient, you saw The Count of Mr. Ripley, you admire his craft. Sometimes I think the craft and the pacing get in the way in the story, and if you saw one of those movies and thought they were a little slow, you're probably going to think this is slow. The other problem this has is the story here is Jude Law, at the end of the war, he's wounded, he doesn't want to go back to the front because he's fighting for the South, he realizes it's a death sentence, so he tries to sneak back home, back to Nicole Kidman, the woman he loves, and he's trying to blend into the background, so he is by design a bland character. Nicole's sort of confused. As a result, this is a movie that really belongs to the supporting players. We saw Renee Zellweger in this. She is fantastic.
She really stands out.
Brendan Gleeson shows up later. He is fantastic. They're the ones with all the energy, and Nicole and Jude Law are sort of wheeling it, reining it in a little bit. So I admire the way this film was made. So I just didn't connect with it emotionally. So I'm going to give it 3 stars for its craft. It's definitely not for the kids. It's way too slow, plus there's some violence in it.
Yeah. I thought it was a good movie, but not necessarily a great movie.
And you read the book.
Read the book. I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina, so I have that connection to it as well. Although they didn't film it in North Carolina.
Romania.
Yeah.
Wow, what are you going to do? It's Hollywood, you know?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Well, next movie is House of Sand and Fog.
This is a movie, by all intents and purposes, I should hate, because it is the Oprah Winfrey-approved melodrama. It was an adaptation of a book that was in her book club. And it just ended up blowing me away. And I think that's a credit to the stars, Jennifer Connelly and Ben Kingsley. Let's take a look.
You can't expect to just move in here and make money off of this. This is my house. I lived here, and you stole this house from me, you son of a...
This is a stolen house! He's trying to sell you a stolen house!
The story here is Jennifer Connelly and Ben Kingsley are fighting over this house, obviously, and they both have a legitimate legal claim to it, and they both have a legitimate moral claim to it. It's an interesting movie, Brad, because there are no villains. These are two basically good people that get into a situation where they end up doing horrible, horrible things to each other. And so even things they don't even like themselves when they're doing. And of course, it's just so wonderfully. I mean, Ben Kingsley is
he's
just
a great actor, isn't he?
Oh, he's such a marvelous actor. And Jennifer Connelly, who played the wife of Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind, she is really, really good. So here I am walking into this tearjerker, knowing it's the kind of movie I usually hate. And I came away saying, man, that thing's worth 4 stars in my book.
Wow.
I was totally just blown away from this thing. No stars for the kids, however. It is a very, very bleak film. I don't think it's one we want to let the kids see.
So not a happy film.
Not a happy film.
All right. Well, the next film we're going to take a look at this morning is Big Fish. Looks like a good one.
Big Fish is a fun story. Big Fish is from Tim Burton, the guy who he does these wonderfully grandiose, very looky films. The story here is a father and a son who have never gotten along because the father's always told these wild, wild stories. Let's take a look.
The thing about icebergs is you only see 10%. The other 90% is below the water where you can't see it. That's what it is with you, Dad. I have no idea who you are because you've never told me a single fact.
I've told you 1,000 facts. Well, it's what I do. I tell stories.
You tell lies, Dad. You tell amusing lies.
As Albert Finney tells these amusing lies and/or stories, the movie flashes back and he becomes Ewan McGregor, which is not a bad choice, Ewan McGregor for Elman. But and the stories are reenacted, and again with the wonderful visual sense of Tim Burton, so that it's obviously semi-dream sequence, semi-memory. Basically, he's explaining here what happens, how the world stopped. He met the woman he fell in love with. The cast here is great. We've got Jessica Lange, Helena Bonham Carter. We've got Alison Lohman, who was in Matchstick Men, and of course Robert Guillaume, who to me will always be Benson, but my kids call him Rafiki, but that's okay. But no, it's a wonderful, wonderful. Visually, it's very, very impressive, and it's a fun story, and it's a movie you come away feeling good about. So I'm going to give this 3.5 stars, and just 2 for the kids.
Albert Finney. He plays a great Southerner, doesn't he? Good
terrific.
Southern accent.
Yeah, you rank all movies and how they play in the South.
That's right.
Everybody has a yardstick, and that's yours.
I mean, talking like this by the time the show's over. Jeff, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Yeah. go out and see some movies this week. Now we're going to check in with Rhonda and see what's coming up later on in the show. Rhonda?
Thank you, Brad. You can give the gift of good health this holiday season. Coming up a little later, we'll tell you how to build a home gym for about $50. $50? How to make this hectic holiday season easier on your four-legged friends. And more movie action next. Actor Brendan Gleeson talks about his role in Cold Mountain.
Thanks for watching Kare 11 Today with Pat Evans and Roxanne Battle. Happy Hanukkah from Kare 11.
I found you this book to take with you. William Bartram. And this.
Based on the book by the same name, Cold Mountain is a love story set during the turbulent Civil War years. The film, opening Christmas Day, stars Oscar winner Nicole Kidman and Oscar nominees Jude Law and Renee Zellweger. It also stars the talented Brendan Gleeson, who's also appeared in other epic films such as Braveheart and Gangs of New York. And it is our pleasure to welcome Brendan Gleeson to the show this morning. Good morning to you, sir.
Brad. How are
Welcome to Minnesota.
Pleasure to be here.
How do you like this weather?
Oh, it's interesting.
Yes, it is. Well, let's talk briefly about the film, which is based on what I think is one of the best pieces of American literature in the past half century or so. It revolves around three main characters, Inman, Ada, and Ruby. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Well, Inman is a young man working in the mountains. He falls for Ada, who's a preacher's daughter, who's just come in from Charleston. And
very sophisticated woman.
Very sophisticated, very mannered. And they kind of fall for each other very, very deeply, but very briefly. When the war breaks out, and of course Inman joins the rest of his peers and heads off to the war. And he's exposed to the horror of it. I think, you know, one of the most moving segments I've ever seen since maybe Saving Private Ryan is contained at the beginning of this movie. And he gets wounded, and he decides he wants to make his way back to her. In the meantime, she's left on the farm trying to cope. Her father dies, and she has to survive on the farm, trying to save the crops, trying to work the animals, which of course she has no idea how to do.
And then comes Ruby.
Then comes Ruby in to help her out, and she is kind of a very poor but a great survivor, and they form a partnership that allows their survival, basically. So it's a kind of a story in parallel where he makes this long walk home, attempting to survive long enough to get to her, and she attempts to survive long enough to wait for him.
In fact, Ruby developed her survival skills because of the lack of her father's parenting skills, and that's where you come in, right?
Well,
you're not exactly up for Father of the Year in this film.
Well, you know, there are two sides to every story.
You left her in the woods one day for several days to go
well,
get
again,
some corn liquor, right?
it was character building. No, he has not been a good father. Actually, he's a kind of a pretty nasty piece of work to begin with. He kind of scratches on a fiddle, but it's basically to get to the end of a bottle. And he plays about 6 tunes, and he's a ne'er-do-well. But we see him early in the movie and in the novel where one of the local young boys has been mortally wounded, and as Inman goes to find somebody, he wants to hear some music. And Inman comes across this guy, Stobrod, and hauls him in. And of course, initially he tries to play some dreadful dance tune, and it's inappropriate. So he's forced to compose a piece of music for a dying boy, and it kind of breaks something in him. He suddenly realizes that his own music is part of his calling. So it's the beginning of his salvation. So.
And the character really does evolve throughout the film. And let's talk about the mountains of North Carolina. That's where I grew up, Scotch-Irish descent. You're Irish.
Yeah.
Many traditions still linger. And the music, you actually play the fiddle. I'm not going to say violin, I'm going to say fiddle.
Thank you. Good for you. Same instrument, just in case anybody's interested, but very, very different approach.
And there are lots of musical influence still in the mountains of North Carolina that came from Ireland and Scotland.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very recognizable, but at the same time, it has taken on a peculiarity of its own, you know, a very distinctive nature of its own. And in North Carolina, the influences were many. I mean, even some of the black influences are clearly there to be heard in the music. For me, actually, Cold Mountain started with the music because 2 separate friends of mine sent me 2 copies of a CD called Songs from the Mountain, which was based on this book So then I heard there was a movie being made, and I held off reading the book until I read the script because it's always a good idea.
I like your taste in music. Let's talk about North Carolina, the mountains of North Carolina, particularly during the 1860s. A very different place. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that North Carolina was the last southern state to secede from the Union, and it also had the highest desertion rate. I mean, these people were essentially fighting a war that they felt wasn't theirs. They're all poor. They're not wealthy landowners, slave owners.
Right. I mean, they weren't part of the vested interest in the war. I think they fought it for very, you know, the ordinary reasons for homeland and all that kind of thing. And they also had the notion that as they volunteered, they could leave when they pleased. And unfortunately...
Works for me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they kind of had a contract. And there was a home guard formed to more or less look after things at home. And a lot of the people who worked that were particularly nasty pieces of work, and in fact we have Ray Winston plays an example of this in the movie.
Very effectively.
But there were many shootings of people who were deserters, and basically all they were farmers coming back to their small holdings, having seen that the war was not what they had been led to believe it was. And they were shot, and the farms were kind of appropriated and misappropriated. So it was there was a huge war to fight even on the home front, apart from the battlefront.
Very quickly, I want to talk about a few other things. I'm so happy for your success. You're a great actor.
Oh, thanks very much, Brad.
The face might not, the name might not be recognizable immediately, but your face.
Right.
You actually didn't really start acting in films until you were 34, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I was part of a kind of a group of guys who had a theatre company, and we used to do that. But I was teaching school for 10 years or so. So when I was 34, I took the big jump.
And your breakthrough film was, you did others before, such as Far and Away, but Braveheart. That was a wonderful film, and we have a clip I want to show here. This is one of my favorite scenes in the movie, where you and William Wallace meet for the first time after several years.
Yeah.
Fine display, young Wallace. You all right? You look a wee bit shaky.
I love that. You know, and I've seen that film maybe a dozen times.
Well, he nailed me, you know. I mean, he threw. I think it must be the baseball thing with Americans, but Mel actually nailed me with that stone. It was unbelievable. From about 50 yards, it came straight for the middle of my head. I kind of bottled it in the end. I had to duck. But
wow.
He's a great shot.
It would appear so. It would appear so.
Yeah.
Also, you were in The General, a highly critically acclaimed picture. What do you have in the works now?
Well, I just finished a couple of things. Actually, I spent the last 3 months in Pennsylvania doing Night Shyamalan's The Village. And prior to that, I was doing Troy, the Wolfgang Peterson thing with Brad Pitt and that. So that's going to be fairly big. And I did my third film with John Boorman earlier in the year in South Africa called Truth, which is about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa.
Okay.
So.
Well, sir, thank you so much for being with us. We wish you continued success. If we had time, we'd go out and get a pint of Guinness.
Yeah, there's always time for a pint of Guinness.
Absolutely. Well, take care.
Thanks a lot.
Well, Brendan's new movie, Cold Mountain, opens Christmas Day in theaters throughout the Twin Cities and nationwide. There is always time for a pint. Up next, baking tips from around the world in this beautiful new cookbook. And later, set sail on the Mississippi River for the cruise of a lifetime. We'll tell you how to give this grand excursion as a gift.
Welcome back. Ovens across the country will be working overtime this week as bakers get ready for Christmas Day. And this new cookbook might make your holiday baking season even sweeter. Home baking, the artful mix of flour and tradition around the world, includes hundreds of recipes for both the beginner as well as the experienced chef. Author Jeffrey Alfred is here in our kitchen this morning to give us a taste. How are you?
I'm fine.
You're already busy at work there, aren't you?
Yeah, I better be. This is a big yeasted dough.
Big, yes it is. This is dough that you've already prepared.
Already prepared. It's already
And it's all got those
risen.
little bubbles and everything. How long do you
very
have to
lively.
make dough like this sit before it's ready to be made into something?
Oh, hour and a half.
Hour and a half. And it's the key to getting a really light, airy dough, because that's what's going to make your final product really good, right?
Right, yeah, but it's sort of any, basic bread making principles. So, try and slow the fermentation down. It makes for better flavor. And then just giving yourself time. You know, people say, oh, how do you have the time to do that? And well, you're not there. I mean, it's doing its thing whether you're there or not. You know, so just slow it down generally.
Your cookbook, I just want to show everybody at home, is very large. What did you say? If you put legs on it, it'd be the coffee table itself. And there's beautiful illustrations of what we're getting ready to make right here. What are these?
These are what I call truck stop cinnamon rolls, and these are based on cinnamon rolls I used to have at a truck stop, still do since I was about 5 years old. It's in Colorado.
What did you just sprinkle on here?
Little vegetable oil.
Vegetable oil.
And then brown sugar. I used to go there with my father. And the one distinguishing feature about the cinnamon rolls was their size. Yes. We liked that a lot.
Yeah, it smells the size of a small baby's head, actually. If I took one of these, I'm going to pick one of these up. This is what we're going to be coming. This is our final product here. If you can imagine how large that cinnamon roll is.
Or larger. It all depends on what size you cut them.
Yeah.
So, but you need to start out with a big dough.
Lots of dough.
And then I like a lot of cinnamon, but again, people vary. My kids don't like.
Yeah. This cloth that you're rolling things on. Pastry cloth.
You don't. But on any countertop. Basically, our approach to baking is, we've turned all this baking so much over to professionals, and it's not good. We've lost.
Well, we don't bake because we're intimidated by it.
We're intimidated, or we think we're kind of too busy, or. But I think, there's skills that are being lost, and especially around the holidays. That smell of.
Oh boy! Speaking of smells, that's great. Before you roll that up, I just want to tell everybody at home what you've done. We've done the vegetable oil, some brown sugar, and then another layer of cinnamon. Is that correct? Now you're taking a little pat of butter and you're buttering the bottom of the pan. Oh my goodness!
Too much, probably. Oh. And you'll notice when I'm getting ahead of myself, but I will. Roll this up.
All right, and you got the butter on your hand now, so that should make it easy for you.
This is often, mass. It's a good mass. So,
does it help to have butter on your hands when you do that?
No, makes no difference.
Okay.
No. But the important thing here is that I find a serrated knife.
Oh, really?
And
I would think not, but why do you say?
So you don't want to squish.
Oh.
You want to let them keep their loft. And imagine that everything's going to be about double. So I'm making quite large cinnamon rolls here.
Those are going to be huge.
Because and when you put them on the sheet, if I put them side by side, they push each other up.
Yeah.
Then you get that nice edge when you pull them apart. But see, if you rolled out your jelly roll flatter, you'd have thinner spirals, right? But again, these particular cinnamon rolls are more sort of like flavored bread than they are like the tightly packed.
Right.
Yeah?
Can I try cutting one? You make that look so easy. Okay.
Sort of grab with those two fingers.
I just feel like I'm going to smoosh it and make a big mess. But how am I doing here, Jeffrey?
Great, great. Now you can reshape a little bit.
Okay.
You're going to have a little.
Right. Okay. There we go. I wasn't as good as you.
It's perfect.
That's okay.
See, there's a lot of.
All right.
And then you can shape it. It's not. You want to manipulate.
Which one did Roxanne do? Anybody at home? Well, let's give everybody a copy of this cinnamon rolls because they're salivating, I'm sure. For a copy of today's recipe, send a self-addressed envelope to the address on your screen. You can also go online to Kare11.com and search under dessert and bread. Home baking, the artful mix of flour and tradition around the world, is a very large cookbook, and it's available at bookstores everywhere. Jeffrey Alfred, our guest this morning, thank you very much.
Make Bowser behave during this busy holiday season. Still ahead, Catherine Newman has important reminders for your pets. But first, this is a season for eating, and we all need some exercise. Find out how to put together a home gym for about $50. It's 3 days before Christmas and you're still looking for gifts? Well, here's an idea. Give a cruise through history. Tickets are on sale now for Grand Excursion 2004. And it's an old-fashioned paddle boat. They'll do a journey up the Mississippi this summer from the Quad Cities to the Twin Cities. Here to tell us more about how to get on board is Jennifer Schneider of Grand Excursion. This is wonderful.
Yes, it
Kind of
is.
reminds me of Mark Twain, but you go ahead.
Oh, we hear that often. We
Do you really?
And there's so much excitement involved with the whole entire aspect of Grand Excursion. It is the celebration of the Renaissance of the Mississippi River, starting down in the Quad Cities, moving up into St. Paul, Minnesota. The riverboats will arrive into St. Paul with pomp and circumstance. We have a wonderful, wonderful celebration planned.
Now, when does all this start? It says Grand Excursion 2004.
Yes,
Is it the summer of 2004?
It is the summer of 2004. It starts in June 23rd down in Bettendorf, Iowa. And the boats will take off actually out of Bettendorf on the 25th of June, traveling upriver and going to stop at different cities along the way until it arrives into the port of St. Paul on July 3rd.
July
I know,
3rd.
it's coming up quick.
Boy,
Yes,
that's a
July
long
3rd.
trip.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so tickets are on sale now, and they're actually selling out.
Are they really?
Yes, they are. We have several different cruises to choose from. You may get on a boat and travel from one town to the next. You can get on in Red Wing and travel into the Twin Cities. You may get on in Red Wing and take a cruise around the harbor.
And we're not just talking about like a 3 or 4 hour trip. You can spend the night on the boat, is this right?
Well, on some of the boats, two of the boats you can see here, we have the Delta Queen and the Mississippi Queen. That is the ultimate Christmas gift. That is an 11-night cruise starting in St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
You will travel upriver, stopping at the towns, joining in celebrations, reenactments, historical events, and then arriving in the port of St. Paul with the entire flotilla of 7 boats. This runs approximately $3,000 to $5,000 per person.
Oh, that is nice.
Yes,
That's
so if you
very
want to give the
nice.
ultimate Christmas gift, this would be it.
And why wouldn't you want to give me that this
Yes,
year?
yes,
You
you're
know,
gonna have to talk to
it would
somebody.
really kick up that gift you gave me last year.
Absolutely.
It reminds me, you know, being raised in the area of Louisville, Kentucky, you see the Delta Queen a lot, you know?
Yes,
So
you
this,
do.
and it's kind of romantic too.
It's very romantic. It's very nostalgic. The history that is combined with it is just wonderful. And that's what Grand Excursion 2004 is. It is the reenactment, recreation of the original. Obviously, since Christmas is nearby and maybe the $3,000 price mark isn't what you would like to be hitting, you can certainly go online and order tickets. We
And
have
all of
everything.
this is inside?
This is on the Mississippi and the Delta Queens. We have 5 smaller boats which are meant for day cruises where you get on, maybe do a lunch cruise, a breakfast cruise, a dinner cruise, a harbor cruise, a romantic moonlight cruise. And you can do that here in St. Paul, off Harriet Island and Lampert's Landing. You're able to take these cruises, spend some time with family, loved ones. We have folks that are booking entire family reunions, grandparents.
That's perfect.
It's really a wonderful historic event, and it's history. So you're not only giving the gift of an experience, but a historical gift as well.
It's like a floating education.
It is.
Just
It
the
really
whole time
is.
that you're on there.
Absolutely. And a great idea is if you do go to our website, you can purchase tickets online, and that's why it's an ideal gift to give. You can purchase tickets online, and as you purchase them and print them, you're right there. Your gift is right there after you finish the transaction. It prints out, you have the piece of paper, that's the ticket you can give, and go back into our website, and you can tailor that gift to the person you're giving it to. We have an educational page, a historical page. If they like a great party, we have different information on the communities and what they will be giving up and down the river.
This is so
it's
unique.
such a great, and you know, if you're not, like I said, if you're not interested in the $3,000 or $5,000,
You don't
we
have
do
to
have
just go that big.
$26. We
Right.
have $26 for a harbor cruise, $50 for a lunch cruise, $80 for a dinner cruise.
And you said it's kind of selling, but it's not. I mean, it's selling well, but it's not sold out yet.
It's not
so
sold out
there's still
yet.
hope if you
Yes.
still want to be able to go.
We have
Thank
7
you.
boats.
Thank you so much. You're just a wealth of information.
You're
But
welcome.
if you want more information on Grand Excursion 2004, including how to get tickets, you can call the number on your screen, or you can log on to the website at grandexcursion.com. Now it's time now for First Birthdays. Big birthday wishes go out to Mary Elizabeth Speen. Mary likes splashing in the bathtub, swimming, and playing with the dishwasher. Happy birthday, Mary. And this little birthday cutie is Ethan Carl Tunsvik. Ethan loves playing peekaboo, laughing, and getting into the cupboards. Happy first birthday, Ethan. And last but certainly not least, Tommy Boston is celebrating his very first birthday today. Tommy likes to laugh and show off his contagious smile and spend time with all his family members. Happy birthday to Tommy and everyone else that is celebrating a very special birthday today. Now we can toss it over to Brad, who has a great way to kickstart your new year.
That's right, Rhonda. This is all you need, believe it or not. With these 6 pieces of equipment, you can do 50 different exercises, and you won't spend a fortune on your new home gym. Randy Zarecki of Fitness Together in Minneapolis has come up with this home gym kit, and he's here to tell us all about it. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you, Brad.
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
I have to tell people that I've been working out at Fitness Together, and you have changed my life. But if you don't want to go to a gym, you can really do something as simple as this, right?
Absolutely, and especially this time of year, anyone looking for that last-minute gift of health can invest in some equipment, at least to get something done at home. Turns out that about 90% of the home gym equipment ends up as a coat rack anyway, and so rather than spending thousands of dollars on home equipment, go ahead and get some of this stuff and at least get the ball rolling.
Speaking of balls,
no pun
I hate this thing.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
Well, that's a resistor ball, otherwise known as a strength ball, and you'll call it all sorts of things. We can call it the blue ball if you want, but there's all sorts of exercises we can do on it for core and for legs, and for chest we use it primarily as a support structure, very much like a bench.
And something like this costs?
About $20.
About $20.
Yeah, what we have in completeness here is we've got the ball that's about $20, $25, a pair of 25-pound dumbbells that are about $20 themselves, an $8 jump rope, and some ankle weights, 5-pound ankle weights, and those go for about $8. Okay. So altogether about $50.
Now the key is to just start. You know, a lot of people procrastinate, but you can go out and spend a relatively low amount of money, and this is really all you need to start a program, right?
Absolutely. As you mentioned earlier, there's well over 100 exercises you can do on just this equipment alone.
Oh my.
Starting is certainly important. Getting some instruction if you're not familiar with it is also important to avoid injury or maybe starting off on the wrong foot.
All right, well, why don't you show us a few things here?
Yeah, well, what I'll do is...
I've already worked out today, so it's your turn.
We'll have you in for a second. One of the unique things you can do with this equipment is a short circuit training program. And so with a circuit training program, we're going to mix a little bit of cardiovascular work in along with some strength work. So I'm going to jump rope for a short period of time. You'd go longer if you were doing this exercise at home. Then I'm going to do some exercises for chest, some exercises for back, and some exercises for abdominal on the ball before we finish up. So if you're at home, you can just go ahead and grab the jump rope.
You're really big on cardio, aren't you?
Cardio is a significant part of every exercise program, so you'd probably go for 50 or 100 repetitions on the rope if you're doing this at home. I'll cut it short at that point for brevity's sake. What I like to do then is ball push-ups. You can take some dumbbells, the same ones that we'll use for some chest work later, and we're going to do ball push-ups. And I like to do these on my toes, but if you're just starting an exercise program, you can do them here on your hips and just slowly dip down to 90-degree angle. Push them back up. If you're in advanced and you think this is easy, you can go ahead and push the ball straight out, rest on your toes, you slow down and back up. Probably go for about 50 of these if you can. What you do immediately after that is a little bit of lower back work, resting on top of the ball from position with the hips centered above the ball. Lift your legs up above the plane that your body forms with the ground, out to the side and back down. From here, what we can do is grab the dumbbells.
You make it look too easy.
Having more trouble. And do a little bit of overhead pressing for some shoulder work, Brad. Straight up here, nice and slow down, 90-degree angle, back up overhead. Work the triceps, put the dumbbells together, back down behind the head, and overhead again.
And you can get the same results with these few items here that you could with some elaborate machine, right?
Well, diligence is still important.
Yeah,
Brad. You need to stick with the program, but absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's important to set moderate goals, because if you set unrealistic goals, you're going to get discouraged and probably not follow through with the program.
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. I think the thing that we see most frequently is that people do begin with more aggressive goals than they really should have, and then get frustrated early and either give up or wander off.
Okay. Well, Randy, we're out of time, unfortunately, but some great ideas. I'll see you at the gym on Wednesday.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Happy holidays
thanks,
to you.
you too.
And for more information on where to find the gym equipment here or how to reach Randy, log on to our website, kare11.com, and click on Morning Shows. Thanks again, Randy. Don't go away. Dog trainer Catherine Newman has some great tips on dealing with hectic family gatherings with your pets. And later, it's a family affair, the O'Neill brothers and their dueling pianos.
Happy Hanukkah from Kare 11.
Welcome back. Does this happen at your house? The doorbell rings and your dog barks like crazy and jumps all over your guest? Or he hides under the bed until the entire family has left? While they're visiting, he's like under the bed. That's his new home. Dog trainer Catherine Newman and Gracie are here today to talk to us about, would it be dog etiquette?
Dog etiquette and really preparing for the holidays, because the holidays are such an active time and a hectic time. And, you know, interestingly enough, people think that it's too late, but there's a couple things that you can do, even starting today, to make sure that your dog goes into the holidays. And
Are you serious?
Absolutely, a well-mannered pet. Yep.
You know, as nice as I am not bringing you cookies today. I'm holding these for you now. What would you like me to do with this?
Well, later in the segment, we're going to demonstrate Leave It, because so many dogs, especially when we're entertaining with guests, they go, wow, this is great. We put the food down on the coffee tables, on other areas around the house, and they go counter surfing. So we're going to teach our viewers today how to teach their dog to leave food alone. But we should probably start with just a couple of tips as far as preparing your dog for the holidays.
Because, you know, a couple of parties that I have gone to already, the dog has been confined to the basement or a room. And that's really kind of unfair, because that's their place, you know?
It can be. I mean, one thing that I always say around the holidays is, you know, first of all, to maintain a regular schedule, maintain routine. So if your dog is used to going for a walk at a certain time, if he's used to being crated in an area, you want to maintain that schedule, and especially feeding. And what we tend to find over the holidays is our dogs get brushed aside, and we do tend to see that we have a huge behavioral problems with that.
Is Gracie not like the best dog going?
She is a good dog, and that's why we like to bring her out to demonstrate to everyone.
She is just gorgeous.
Now, another thing that people should do over the holidays, especially if their dog already knows down, okay, Grace, come on, we're going to demonstrate right here, is really you want, if you're eating dinner, if you're having holiday guests over in the living room, you want your dog not to go from person to person to be a pest, Grace, down, but to really put your dog on a down stay. So that way they can enjoy the festivities, they can be out with the crowd, but they're under control. Now, if you have a young dog, then they're going to have to be crated. And if you crate them, you know, make sure, and when I mean a young dog, I mean a young, rambunctious, out-of-control dog.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking about just because of age. I'm talking about because we haven't had the training, because they'll just get into a lot of trouble.
Now, what else? Teach it to leave it.
Leave it, yep, and that's what we're going to do today. Now, this is something, let me go ahead and take this plate. Okay, Grace, is that this table...
Look at her chops already.
Yep, it's right at Grace's level. And of course, whenever you start putting holiday candies down, the dogs start thinking, wow, I can have them. So the best way to teach Leave It is for you to go ahead and start putting the food down and then say no, leave it, and then I just step into the dogs and I claim this area as my space, and she knows that she can't come over here. Now, some more rambunctious dogs, you might have to do a slight collar check, and I'll demonstrate that. As you're bringing the food down, no, leave it, and a tug back, just like that. Now, you practice this 6 times a day, and when I mean 6 times, I mean 1 repetition. You know, put 1 plate down with 1 cookie, no, leave it, and, you know, by Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, your dog will be leaving food alone on lower tables like this.
But, you know, now, this is just me. I think it's a little unfair to have all this around the dogs and not have something. Maybe there could be some doggy treats that they could...
Well, I think if you put a doggy treat on the table, you're saying that in certain circumstances it's okay to nibble off the table. So I think you're setting a bad precedent. You know, my feeling is that, you know, I own this table, and if I put something on this table, you need to leave it alone. And it's not that Grace doesn't get treats or anything of that nature, but I think it comes down to expectations, you know, and I have very high expectations for my dogs and my clients' dogs, and this is certainly something that is not unrealistic for them to ignore.
The last one is, as you said earlier, don't forget to exercise your dog during this period of time, too. We get so caught up in some other festivities and activities that we sometimes forget, but it's still important.
It's very important, and many people ask me, because I'm a professional trainer, what type of gift should I get my dog for the holidays? And I always say, you know, the best gift that you can give your dog is the gift of time. I mean, Grace is much happier going for a walk than even a special bone or something like that.
Or a sweater. Do you like the sweaters?
It depends upon the dog. You know, if you've got a
Does Grace like sweaters?
Well, Grace doesn't need a sweater because she's got a thicker coat.
I've seen some with thick coats with sweaters.
So it depends upon the dog. And
she got a nice necklace on. That's cute.
Yeah, she spends a fair amount of time outside too, so she's pretty tough. But you know, if you have a Doberman or a miniature pincher or something that's, you know, has that thin coat, They might need a
need
jacket.
a ticket. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much. It's good
You're
to see you.
welcome.
Hey, happy holidays
Happy
to you
holidays.
too. Happy holidays. For more information, you can contact Catherine Newman at Augusta Training Systems, and the number is 952-892-0292. Now, coming up, they are the kind of guys you'd love to have at a party. The O'Neill brothers know how to entertain a crowd. A preview of their Christmas concert is coming up next. Their dueling pianos recently entertained the president at a performance in New York, and tonight the O'Neill brothers bring the sounds of the season home to Minnesota. Now joining us now are Tim and Ryan O'Neill, originally from New Prague, Minnesota. Thank you guys for Ryan in the red.
Ryan in the red.
Tim, terrific.
You got it. Mom
Terrific,
gets us
Tim.
confused too, so
Does
don't
she
worry
really?
about it.
Tell me this, you guys have to have a lot of fun on this tour.
We have a lot of fun. Both Tim and I have played piano pretty much our entire lives, and we have a lot of fun in concerts playing and singing on the two pianos, and we bring a lot of other musicians along with. So it's a great time.
Because you don't just play, you entertain. You really entertain.
Yeah, some people might have our CDs of relaxing piano music, but for the Christmas concert, we entertain. We have some fun surprises.
So what is this, a blend of like, I heard that it's a little blend of like entertainment, like comedy, and a little bit of jazz and classical mixed together?
Yeah, Tim and I have done the dueling pianos thing. We went to Notre Dame and started playing together on the two pianos there. And in concert, we kind of continue on playing and singing, but also, you know, bringing some other fun musicians. And you got to have a little humor. I mean, everybody wants to be entertained.
Can you
during the
practice for
concert.
this? Can you rehearse
yeah.
for something like this?
Oh, yeah.
Or is a lot of it on the fly?
Well, it's kind of half and half. It's kind of, that's why we would travel with great musicians, because the show has changed. We've done a 12-day show. So tonight is the last night at St. Kate's.
Okay, well, let me tell
So tonight's
people.
going to be a different show, yeah.
I'm going to be a good girl and tell them about it where you take your places. The O'Neill brothers perform tonight at the O'Shaughnessy Auditorium at the College of St. Catherine tonight. That starts at 7:30. And for tickets, you can call the number on your screen or go to Ticketmaster.com. And you can also buy tickets at the door.
Is the mic on? The mic is on. Thank you so much for sharing part of your day with us. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we did.
I had a wonderful time. They are fabulous.
Tomorrow, Lori and Julia from FM 107 will be here with some very last-minute Christmas gift ideas.
Jeff Strickler has some advice for parents on which movies to take your kids to this holiday season.
And the folks at the shops at Arbor Lakes will be here as well. Thanks again for joining us and have a great day.